chair of the Conservative Auto Caucus, I have heard this over and over and over from global automakers, from our manufacturers, and you would think that a company that builds vehicles to sell, new vehicles to sell, would actually be somewhat excited that vehicles are leaving Canada in droves. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. They said they completely need action on this, and they need it really, really quickly. Last summer, visited the Port of Vancouver on 2 or 3 various occasions and was right on the shop floor of the port, if you will. And I said to the folks that were driving me around, what are those 8 or 10 containers, shipping containers, doing in the middle of a parking lot next to a very small building? Very small building. And they said those containers are the ones that are to be inspected from the CBSA. I said, you honestly are kidding me, right? Is there radioactive material in there? Or is there something that is illegal that you're aware of? They said, no, that's the ones they took out. Of the tens of thousands of containers that I was looking at on the port site. And it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I realized that the Port of Vancouver is not the avenue, not the highway for the majority of vehicles that are going overseas. I understand that. But I use that as a factual example that when we have so many containers coming into this country and we don't give our CBSA officers the proper tools or the resources, being people, to look at these, then obviously that only makes sense. Mr. Chair, I live next to the busiest international border crossing in North America, the Ambassador Bridge, soon to be the Gordie Howe International Bridge. And I would have thought that that the majority of this conversation would have been surrounded by those bridges. But I do know that when I cross the bridge quite often, when you go over top the Ambassador Bridge on the right-hand side, you'll see an X-ray location, and so many of these transport vehicles go underneath a mobile X-ray. So it's a transport truck that runs alongside a transport truck with a great big arm that X-rays it, and they find things right down to such as anomalies, such as cocaine and marijuana and all the illegal ones that are being exported and imported into Canada. And I have a hard time believing that if they can find something so minute such as these drugs, that they can't see a vehicle or 3 in a shipping container with an X-ray machine. Which goes on to my point of, why would we not do this study when we realize that folks in Toronto, Montreal, Brampton, down in the Hamilton regions are being so affected by vehicle theft? And it's not only the ones that have their vehicles stolen, Mr. Chair, it's everybody else. $1 billion is what the insurance companies say the rest of us are going to have to pick up the tab for. I know with my children and my wife and my vehicle just how expensive insurance is. And so I think at the very least we should be studying this. Recently, I stopped into a constituent's place and just had a chat with them on a completely unrelated topic. And I said, so are you heading anywhere down south for the wintertime? Husband and wife. I said, you heading anywhere down south? Yep. They said, I'm going to tell you something though, Chris. This is kind of interesting. I said, sure, what's that? They said, we've stayed at the same hotel for a number of years in the Toronto area, right next to the airport. And the gentleman has a Dodge 1500 pickup truck. And he called up the hotel and said, so as in the past, you have the private parking next door. If I pay an extra couple dollars and I stay there for 2 weeks, then I don't have to pay for parking across the street at the Park and Fly. And they said, yeah, you're absolutely correct. However, we don't have pickup trucks here anymore. We will not store pickup trucks because the truth of the matter is, in 2 weeks when you come home, it'll likely be stolen. If that's where we're at now, if that's where Canada has come to, then I think at the very, very least we must study this at committee. I I don't see why we wouldn't study this in committee. We are, by the way, the Transport Committee, and I'm in full support of this motion, Mr. Chair. As chair of the